All right, all right. I'm going to hold this in my hand and just talk right by online. It is a little bit past 9 o'clock, so we'll get started now today. We've got a few people online and a few people here. First thing we'll do, like we always do, is today's expectations. So today we're going to have learning techniques for qualifying homes to find online who avoid buyers. And for those online, we're in session 8 today. So we're starting in session 8. So you go find session 8, and that's where we'll be. If you're doing your online class or you have your book, we're going to be learning techniques of selling, qualifying homes you find online, developing your showing skills, and practicing powerful scripts that will help you with buyers and decision-making process. And we're going to have Ms. Jackie Bullock doing our training for today, and she is an awesome, awesome person to be doing this training because she loves buyers and is very good at showing and building relationships. But also, like we've been doing each day, homework, action. Have y'all done your action steps for today, the mission? Again, with the caveat knowing we compress schedule, things going on, that's not, but just to see, have y'all, some people here, y'all tried any phone calls, written any notes, since Charlotte didn't see any homes? Do you have your license yet? You don't have your, okay. Okay, you got your license. We haven't gotten to NDA yet, got your central lock and everything. Okay, so you can't see homes yet anyway. And no MRS yet either? Okay. Dennis, and you've been starting the process and anything. You see any homes yet since we started Ignite?
In person, no. I've been practicing with trying to get the hang of how to find stuff in MRIS.
Okay. So before next Wednesday, we try to see at least one home, right? Awesome. Awesome. And online, y'all too. Like I said, this thing doesn't start happening until you start seeing homes. Everything's online. They lie. And you, when you go there in person and see what it really is like, and Jackie definitely can tell you a lot about this, I'm sure. She's probably got lots of stories on that. But, and again, like I was talking to Dennis this morning, we understand the class is compressed, so it's hard to get all the 10-4s done. But just do your best. You get out of it what you put into it, if you have questions. And then, but the biggest thing is, these are activities that will make you successful. So while you might not be able to do all the 10-4 for the 2 weeks with everything else going on, going forward, these are activities you want to do to be successful in real estate. And so you start getting the habits of doing these with these, the notes, phone calls, pop-bys, and you're doing peak producers, stuff like that. These are activities, if you want to be successful in a relational business, this is what we do. Now, you can't go knock on doors, you can make phone calls, you call expires, there's all kinds of ways to do that too, but that's not the way I do it. The way Jackie does it for the most part. And so, but there's other ways to do it if you feel comfortable with that. Here's how we do it. Here's how KW teaches as far as find a lead gen system that works for you. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Jackie, and she'll take it over from here.
I'm not adept at using the microphone. Hi, I'm Jackie Bullock. I've been an agent here for almost 4 years. I started out working with my mom. And ended up going on my own. My first year, I worked solely with buyers. Actually, let me go back a little bit. My background after college was law enforcement. I was a police officer for 7 years. And then did you know that? You didn't know that? Yeah, I was a police officer for 7 years in California and in Oregon. And then I married into the military. Stayed home for 13 years. My mom was in real estate for a long time. Told myself, I am never going to be a realtor. That's not something that I wanted to do, but my mom has a different style of being a realtor compared to me. And when I realized that I could, one of the reasons why I got into law enforcement was to help people. And then when I realized this job is just not about sales, it's about helping people, that's when it kind of clicked for me. And I started out doing transaction coordinating for my mom and then went into full-time real estate. I think one of the reasons why they chose me to talk about this particular subject is I love working with buyers. My first year, one of the things that my mom had me do was just solely work on buyers. And so my first year, I had 15 transactions. I got my first one at 2 weeks, but I was pretty motivated. And we had Ignite through Keller Williams, but we didn't have Ignite here at this office yet. This office was only about a year old then. So I think it's really exciting that you guys have the opportunity. I went online, and if you miss a class, I don't know if they have a way to look at them again, but there is so much information. That's what I did. Okay, yes. But that's what I did. I went to Keller Williams University, and I went through Ignite on there, and I went any of the webinars that came out. I always find something of value through that. But again, my first year, I worked with solely tenants and buyers and showing homes. And starting with tenants was really cool because it allowed me to kind of develop those showing skills, which is what we're going to talk about today. One of the things that we're going to go through before I start in is there's a script. I'm not sure if your pages are the same as mine. Shane, are their pages the same as mine? Okay. Are we going to have them make calls? Okay. Does
Right here, this is page 0.
Oh, pages 8 and 9. Okay. Are you guys up for making some calls at all? Have you made calls yet to anybody in your sphere?
I haven't made calls, but I've been reaching out to people within my sphere to let them know that I'm in real estate.
Absolutely.
Collecting email and home addresses.
Right.
So they can put them in my database.
Right. Okay, so one of the easiest things you can do is there's a script on page 8. Good morning. There's a script on page 8 that talks about reaching out to vendors. One of the things we do as a real estate agent is not only do we help people buy and sell homes, but we also, how do you take that extra step and provide value? It's not just a transaction. We put together a vendor list. As you start working with buyers and sellers, you start getting home inspectors, you start getting contractors, plumbers and stuff. And when you find a really good one, take time to set aside and make a list. And I know there are some agents, like once a year in January, send out, this is my preferred list of vendors this year. It might be the same thing as last year, but as a homeowner having something, or, oh my gosh, I have a plumbing issue, who do I call? Do I go online and I have to read the reviews? So coming from somebody that works with plumbers and all of those contractors is something that you can provide a value. But we have a script on page 9 that talks about creating referral partnerships with business owners you've done business with. And there's another one, it's creating referral partnerships with business owners you have not done business with. And just getting set up as an agent, this is one area, you'll learn this in bold, this is one area where you can create those referral partnerships, where if you're always working with a home inspector and you're constantly giving them business, or if you're constantly referring something to a restaurant, taking that time, if you always go out to Red Robin on every Saturday and that's your thing, it might be worth it, setting time to talk to the manager and say, hey, listen, I refer people all the time. I love your food. How can we win-win? If you know somebody that's interested in real estate, can we sit down and can we just talk about this and maybe we can be a referral partner? People in your area, say you live in Falls Church, going to some of those businesses that you frequent often, they'll probably recognize your face. A lot of us women, we like to shop at the same places. I have gotten business at places that I get my shoes at. I've gotten business just, wearing my name tag and other things. So I'm going to go over this first script here, and I'm actually going to call one of my home inspectors, if you don't mind, and I'll go ahead and put it on speaker, and we can listen. It sounds a bit scripted. I know some people don't like working with scripts, but doing the scripts over and over again, when you're finally in that situation, you'll be able to pull out what you need to pull out, whether it's the same script or how you make it your own. I mean, nobody wants to be talked to like they're scripted, but this really is a good script. So I'm going to go ahead and give him a call. And then the next one we can just kind of read through. Have you guys already read through the chapter before class today, or is this all something? Okay, cool. I should have had this set up. I apologize. And you could see the script on page 9.
Royal Key Home Inspection.
Good morning, Troy. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Troy, this is Jackie. I'm with Keller Williams Realty, and I'm in the process of creating a list of preferred business and service providers to give my clients. Since I frequently have clients that ask me for a good home inspector, I only want trusted companies to refer them to. Since I've had an excellent service from you, would you and your business be interested in being included?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I'd like to establish these professional referral partnerships to help grow each other's businesses as well. So if I were to refer clients to you, would you be willing to refer your clients that are looking to buy or sell a home to me with the assurance that I will provide them the highest level of customer service that you expect?
Absolutely.
Awesome. How about we confirm each other's contact information so we can get started?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you for taking my phone call today. I will send you an email with all my contact information, and we can talk later about it.
Hey, sounds great.
All right. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you. If you need anything, let me know.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
It's that easy. You can take a script, make it your own so it doesn't sound so scripted or more coming from you, but it's that simple. You can do it in person. You'll go through a lot of that if you ever take Bold. That's one of the classes they'll talk about is making a list of those preferred providers or those, if you're out in your neighborhood and you want to, okay, let me start over. You have your own sphere. I think what the point I'm trying to get at is you have your own sphere, but we're working with other people allow that sphere to get a little bit bigger, and referrals are always awesome. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start on page 11 and talk about the journey of finding and showing homes. This is my favorite topic. I love working with buyers, and we're going to go over some stats here about NVAR stats that will help with the home search process. These are a little bit older. They're a couple of years older, but I think they're still very applicable. The typical home buyer searched for 10 weeks and viewed 10 homes. I think that's probably prevalent. I've encountered a lot of buyers these days are very savvy online. And that you will find out. I know when my mom was first showing property back, 10, 20 years ago, the real estate agent did everything for them. They found the homes on the MLS. It wasn't accessible to everybody online right now. Right now, your buyers are going to be very savvy. I think a lot of them already kind of know and want to narrow it down unless they're brand new and starting their search. And you'll find a lot of those at your open houses. And they've already searched, they've already seen 10 homes, and that means they've probably gone to open houses. That's why open houses are very important, and that's another class that you can talk about, but that's something you really should put in your pocket, especially as a new agent to find business. If you can't find it within your sphere and let people know and somebody's not ready to buy, just go to those open houses. Perfect your open house because everybody's different. Everybody does open houses differently, but I love open houses. And perfecting how to talk to somebody all the way to an appointment from the time they walk into the door. Not everybody's going to be ready, but there is going to be times where you can, be confident in yourself where I know my first couple of showings, first couple open houses, I just kind of stood there and like, come on in, take a look, sign in. And it kind of morphed into, allowing them to come in. Or like I said, everybody does it differently. Some people meet them at the door. I let them come to me. I'm very nonchalant about it, go through the process, but I just kind of listen. Listening is very important when you're working with buyers. 92% of buyers use the internet in their home search process, and you will find this out. When you start working with buyers, your buyers are going to send you listings that weren't on their search or were on the search. Everybody uses Zillow. You'll find out that, well, I saw this house on Zillow, and your first thing is, well, let me look it up, because sometimes unless an agent changes that in the system, it could be expired, it could be sold 9 months ago. So 50% of buyers use a mobile website or application in their home search. And, that's very important. Buyers, when you start working with buyers, you'll realize that they kind of, what I call the buying zone. When they're ready to purchase a house, it's the same if you were going to go purchase a house or you're going to buy a car. You go through that process of comparing and, they're sitting at their desk looking at their mobile website. They're, whether it's Zillow or whatever. And so when we start talking about the buyer consultation, Shane, have they already talked about the buyer consultation? Okay, you talked about that yesterday. Very, very important. Buyer consultation is the most important thing that you can do in setting those expectations. And we'll talk about that as we go through as well. But setting those expectations of what we're going to go look at, how we go through this process. One of the things they talked about is going through and giving you your app. Have they talked about giving you the app during the buyer consultation? What's that?
I don't think we covered that.
Okay. Outside of this, if anybody wants to, listen to a buyer consultation, I'd be happy to sit down with you at a table and we can, kind of do a role play, and I'd be happy to go over a buyer consultation with you. But one of the things that I do in there, we have here at the Falls Church office, we have a sheet that's folded up, and it's 16 steps to settlement. So when I talk with my buyers, I take their $1 here a piece, and when I go to sit in front of that buyer on the buyer consultation, I'm going to turn that particular thing, and we're going to go step by step, 16 steps. We talk about how it's a big process, but let's narrow it down. This is what's going to happen. I give them a pen, they can write on that. And one of those things is, I think it's the third or fourth step, is giving them your app. So I already have my app on my phone, and all I have to do is get their phone number and text it to them, and they have my app. They also have an ability to send those to me if they see something on my app, because it's real time. As soon as it hits here, they're probably going to get it more on their phone or on that app if they're searching than if they open up an email. Very, very important tool. I use it every single time I have a buyer. Now, whether they use it or not, but most of them do, they love it. It's pretty comprehensive. 98% of buyers who used an agent viewed real estate agents as a useful information source, whether they used them or not. But most people still, unless you're an investor, most people are still using real estate agents or realtors to purchase a home. So being that one agent that's going to get in front of them, doing what you're doing right now is working their database and letting your friends and your family and other people you come in contact with, let them know that you're a realtor and that you can help them, and constantly working to better yourself to be a better agent. One of the things that I always do, and it's kind of dorky, but I wear my name tag everywhere. I actually forgot about my name tag once and wore it to a family function, and I didn't realize my cousin was actually selling their home. And they had a realtor that was not performing because it was a friend of theirs. I ended up referring them to a great Maryland agent, and they sold their house just like that, and they were, very happy about it. It's not something I normally do, but it just worked out for me. But I wear my name tag when I go into stores on my off time, because I'm still until I go home and until I take off my clothes and put my sweats on or whatever I'm doing when I'm off. This is my uniform. I guess for me, transitioning from police, this is my uniform. I get up during the day, put my clothes on and I put my name tag on. There's my badge, and for me, that it just works. And people are mistaking me for employees, which is fine, because it gives me an opportunity to say, oh, no, gosh, I'm just getting off work. I'm a realtor. Oh, and, that might open up the conversation. And I think sometimes for women, this also opens up a conversation for women, too. I might be standing there and looking at a pair of shoes. And don't negate your normal, everyday conversations with people, because that can open up an opportunity where you don't know they might need to buy a house. And so if you're just nonchalant about it, open that conversation. And you might not have that personality, but don't count out that particular, you know what I mean? You're just not going to work, making your phone calls and then going home, because there are a lot of opportunities out there, especially for buyers. More than 50% of buyers reported finding the right home was the most difficult step in the home buying process. We're going to be going through helping you find and show homes for your buyers, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. 24% of recent home buyers reported that the primary reason for the recent home purchase was a desire to own a home. Most people grow up, I know I did, thinking that like the best, once I make it finally, I'm going to own a home, and it's a very big accomplishment for a lot of people. So I take my job very seriously and try to portray that when I'm talking to people about buying a home. 9% of purchased a new home due to a job-related relocation or move. In this area, there's tons of relocations, military relocations, there's international people, there's government jobs. So, they might be here for 3 to 5 years or longer. So I think when I look at a group of people, I know that a minimum of 10% in this area are going to be moving. I just have that statistic in my head, and I think it's a little bit higher in this area. 8% bought for the desire to be in a better area or change in family situation. I actually have a seller right now that they have a small home in Lake Ridge, and they want to move to a bigger home in a better school district. So, I mean, that happens. So, how do you guys think that these statistics apply for working with buyers? These statistics that I've gone over.
Well, most of them are pertaining to people buying.
Right. Okay. All right, so we're going to go right into, in order to have a successful home search process, we need to focus on basically these 3 steps. We're going to find the right homes, we're going to show qualified homes, and bringing your buyers to the decision. Each time you start working with the buyer, that's basically the same steps. No buyer process is the same, just like no seller process is the same. I think that's one of the reasons why I got into this business, because I loved when I got in the police car and every day was different. I might go to a robbery, but it was the same. It's not the same as the last robbery I had. It's always something different. And I can make this job what I want. As an entrepreneur, I can make as much money as I want. There's no limits. So, but the most important thing is to find the right homes. So when we talk about 92% of the buyers use the internet in their home search process, buyers are definitely on the internet probably 90% more than you are looking for their search. So the first thing that we're going to do after you have the consultation, and I don't know if they talked about this yesterday during the buyer consultation, but before you start putting them on a search, before you start showing them property, you have to get the buyer-tenant agreement. Did they talk about that? Very, very important. I don't work with buyers that are not committed to me. When I go through my buyer consultation process, that's at the very end of it. And that lets me know that they're committed to me and I'm committed to them. And if they don't want to sign that to see a property or to work with me, I'll just say, great, whenever you're ready. I'm not offended by it. I'm like, great, whenever you're ready, we had this consultation, we'll go forward. And I just keep in contact with them, but it's very, very important. So the next step is to put them on the MLS, or what we call the buyer instant notification system. It's on the MLS. So we can actually, I know Shane here, in a minute, we'll pull up the MLS, and I know you've been looking at that, pulling up. And one of the things in your buyer consultation is they've also talked about the 5 must-haves. It's really important to ask people exactly what those must-haves are, and it's different for everybody. And if people don't know, you can prompt them. All right, so we've gone through the whole buying process. Now let's talk about the best part. That's what I say to them. I go into this real openly. Let's talk about the best part of what you want. And some people, it's a soaking tub. I have to have a tub. And some people, it's like, I don't want a tub. I just want a shower. I don't ever bathe. Or the kitchen is very, very important. I've had clients say, I want a front porch. I don't care about everything else inside. I need the rooms and everything else, but I have to have that front porch. And as we started looking in that process, so knowing the 5 must-haves, and kind of when you're sitting down in your consultation after you've gone through the process, I have a folder that I have, and I have a notebook paper in there, and so I start writing down exactly what those are. And when I have 5 of those that are really, really important, I'll go ahead and star those. Knowing those 5 must-haves going through the process are really going to help you, and it's going to help your buyer. Okay, so for instance, if the most important of those 5 must-haves was the front porch, as we start going through these, as I start getting these listings, they're going to start sending them to you. Hey, listen, I want to send this. I want to send this. Maybe they send you 8 of these. Then you go through what they've sent you and say, okay, 3 of these don't have a. You got to kind of help your buyers, because it's such a big thing. Kind of help your buyers narrow it down. Well, these don't have front porch. Is this something that's not going to be important? Oh, yeah, it's still important. Okay, well, let's eliminate these. Now we have 3 or 4 of these. I don't always do this, but it is recommended that you actually have them go drive by it, especially if they have a big list. Some people are like, well, I have 10 homes I want to see this weekend. Well, I don't show 10 homes at a time because they start blurring in together. You only want to show the best. So if they have 10 homes, ask them, listen, can you drive by these homes and tell me which ones you really want to see? And let's narrow it down to 5, no more than 6. And when I go out with my buyers, I actually have another folder. I put paper on one side and I put the MLS printout on the other. So they have a customer copy of that MLS printout, and then in my folder I have the agent copy, which has all the contact information and any other things that they're not going to get on theirs. So going forward, always trying to narrow down, always trying to pick the right homes so you're not wasting your time. Because if you let your buyers direct you to see the homes, you could be showing home after home after home. I can talk about my 3rd buyer. I still didn't have a lot of experience, and it's also important as you're going through the buying process, the buyer consultation is identifying who that the primary decision maker is. And sometimes it's not clear, but it's really, really important. For the most part, you're going to find that the woman is actually the primary decision maker. And in this situation, don't ever do this. If you get to the point where you're showing 20 homes, there's something wrong, and we'll talk about this. But I actually showed 76 homes before I asked one of my colleagues, what is going wrong? What am I doing wrong? And I realized that I would literally, she had no job, and so she was retired, her kids were out of the house. And so we would go in the car every day, and we'd look at 5 or 6 homes, and none of them matched. Or this matched, but the husband didn't like it. And then I realized that the husband was the primary decision maker. And so when I started tailoring for him, and he was so picky, I ended up going to new construction, which is what I normally do with a lot of my really, really picky buyers. It sounds like, you want this, this, and this, and this. I don't think there's a home out there that has all of that. How about we go look at new construction? That might, so you can actually, get all of these things that you want in the price range that you're looking for. And so that's ended up what happening is they ended up buying a brand new home. And after months and months and months. We're also going to talk about in here what happens if you start showing 10, 15, 20 homes. You want to sit down with them and regroup. And it's okay to ask them, say, listen, maybe I wasn't listening, maybe your 5 must-haves have changed, but you really have to pay attention to the houses that you're showing and the houses that you're looking up and the houses that you're sending them, because it's easy to, if you have 5 buyers, it's easy to just send them the MLS and have them call you to go see the showings and just kind of do it blindly. But if you really pay attention to what your buyers are looking for, you're going to get them into that home faster, and it's going to be better for you. I call it the buying, I guess it's the buying zone. We talked about, purchasing a home or purchasing a new car. Buyers can really only be in that zone for a short period of time. You get past 10, 12, 15, 20 weeks of actively looking for a home, they start getting exhausted. So if you can get them during that first period of time and direct them and do it in the shortest amount possible, it's going to be better for both of you. You never want to rush anybody, but okay. And we talked about monitoring what your buyers receive from the website, but also contact them. If you see something, take half an hour during your day And if you're working with 5 buyers, and look at what they're looking at, or look at what just came on the market. If you know they're at work, call them up and say, hey, listen, I just saw this come on the market. Even though it's going to be in their feed, maybe they haven't seen it yet. And so that knows that, that lets them know that's your value, and you're still letting them know, hey, listen, I'm still attuned to what you're doing. And you might find something else new, because sometimes people get really busy in this area. People are working. Anybody that's going to be buying these kind of homes, there's probably a dual, either somebody's got a really good government job or both people are working in the house. So, all right. This is where knowing the market can save time and frustration. When you're working with your buyers, set the expectation whenever the buyers see a home online that they really like, that they really should do a drive-by before deciding if they really want to see the inside. If you've already previewed the home that they want to see, be sure to let them know that you think it's a good match or not, and any relevant details you noticed. I always bring my file with me when I go out with my clients when we're viewing homes, and I have those 5 must-haves. And I really try to narrow it down when we go to see those 5, how important it is to make sure that you know what they're looking for. Otherwise, your time is very valuable. Once you start really getting into this business, you're going to realize that, I make $50 an hour. I make $100 an hour based on what my price point is of selling. And so those hours are very, very important. And especially a lot of times people want to see houses at night because they work during the day. They want to see houses on the weekend and on Sundays. And that's your personal time. So if you can kind of narrow it down to the ones that are really important, that's going to help all of you. The only exception I have to this is maybe a hot property. As we come into the spring market, you're going to find that properties are going to go on the market and they're going to be gone in the same day. And sometimes they might be on a coming soon and they never make it to the market, especially here in Fairfax County. You guys are getting your license right at the best time of the year, because as we go forward, last year it started at the end of January. Normally it kind of starts hypothetically in this area after the Super Bowl, but it just depends on the weather. But last year it was amazing. There was inventory problem everywhere, and inventory is going low as the holidays, and people are now start thinking about putting their houses on the market. So the buyers are still out there, and so these first houses that are going to hit the market are going to create that feeding frenzy. And in this area, there's so many military. This is also the first PCS season of the year. So you'll hear people talking about that if you're affiliated with the military or working with military buyers. I'm sorry, PCS is permanent change of station. I apologize. I'm married to the military, so I just throw those out. But permanent change of station, normally they're going to be here 2 to 3 years. Sometimes this area tends to keep people longer than the normal 2 to 3 years. Sometimes they'll be here 5 years. And that's a conversation you have to ask if you are working with military buyers. How long are you going to be here? Well, 2 years? Well, does it make sense to buy? Just because they're a client doesn't mean you have to get them under contract. Because what's it going to be like on the other side when they don't have enough equity in their home to sell it? Now they're stuck with the house and having to rent it out. So this is where your value comes in, because if you can save somebody from making a bad investment, especially a lot of young military buyers, making a bad investment, if they're never going to come back here, what does it make sense to have a house for 2 years? They might be your best referral source. This agent took the time to talk to me about the process and talk to me about maybe this is not the best time to purchase. They might be your best referral source. So something to think about. Okay, so one of the things they want to have us do here is I know you've been working on the MLS, but they want us to pull up, Shane, they want us to pull up the MLS, and I'm going to ask you guys to pick kind of 5 criteria, and then we're going to find it on the MLS. So what do you think about that? Sound good? Okay. So what would your 5 must-haves be for your house if you were to purchase one? Schools. Okay, so we've got schools, good schools. Okay. What do you think?
Within a 10-minute walk of Metro.
Okay. 10-minute walk of Metro. Okay. Which Metro? Any Metro?
Any Metro.
Okay. Any particular county? I guess, I mean, to say, we want to live in Fairfax, we're in Fairfax County, actually Falls Church City right here, but, so you're not particular about county? Okay. What about a kitchen, gourmet kitchen, stainless steel, backyard with a fence in it, because I have 2 dogs. You need a small backyard, because the yards are small here unless you're paying in the millions. Okay, so fenced in backyard maybe? Or at least a backyard? Backyard, okay, backyard. What else? 3 bedrooms, I have to have minimum of 3 bedrooms. Well, this is just fake, so we're just gonna pick something and then go on the MLS and try to find it. What about off-street parking? Okay. So maybe we're looking at a townhome, so you don't know. Okay, what about bedrooms? Or any features inside the house? Minimum, let's go with the minimum 3 bedroom, 2 bath. 3 bedroom, 2 bath, okay. Okay, so the 5, I have a buyer now, and the buyer wants good schools, 10 minutes to Metro, a backyard, off-street parking, and a minimum of a 3 bedroom, 2 bath. What's that? A deck? Oh, okay, yeah, a backyard with a deck, okay. I forgot about you guys, sorry about that.
Can you address when they say school is important, crime rate is important, and make sure that you address that?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of things you know as you took the class that you cannot talk about neighborhoods. And you cannot talk about school districts, neighborhoods and crime and stuff like that. I've had people specifically ask me, I don't want to live in a bad neighborhood. And so do you know what your first response should be?
I can appreciate you not wanting to live in a bad neighborhood.
That's right.
I am not an expert on crime in that neighborhood or
Right.
schools. So what I would suggest is that you go to this web address,
Right.
www.crimereport.com,
Right.
and see what crime is present there.
Right.
And so, because you're the ultimate judge of what that, what bad neighborhood is.
Right. Right. Same with schools. I work with a lot of parents, and the 2 most important things that we want is good schools and good neighborhoods. And so what I have to say to my clients is, listen, those are the 2 things I can't talk about, but what I suggest you do when we start picking out homes is drive by those neighborhoods. If they ask me why, I'll explain, listen, I have professional ethics. I can't, they consider it steering, because we know the good neighborhoods. We know where the good schools are. And for me to say to you, listen, you should live in this neighborhood. And maybe I don't like this person. I'm going to tell them to live in this neighborhood, and we just can't do that. So refer them to another website. Even when you do your listings, it's not okay to put stats in your print that goes out or your print on Facebook. It's okay to put a link to somebody else's stats, but it's not okay to do that yourself. So one of the reasons for this, not only do you want to keep yourself on point, but you never know when there's going to be a tester. And I don't know if anybody's ever talked to you about this, but there will be people in your career, and you're not going to know who they are, that are going to pretend to be clients. And they're gonna, they'll have a rapport with you, and then they'll slip in those questions. And if you're not paying attention and you say the wrong thing, you could get fined for it. And so they do that for kind of a checks and balances. So if you're always doing what you're supposed to be doing with every client, even your best friend, you're not going to go wrong, and it's not going to be an issue. So just remember that. I think I had a tester once, and it was a renter. Found them exactly what they were looking for, but they kind of sneaked in that question. I thought, well, that's kind of odd. And basically what I said, they were asking about, what are the nationalities in here? And I said, you know what, I'm colorblind. That's what I say to people. I'm really colorblind. This is not something that I even know. If you want demographics on a certain area, I can refer you to a website, but I don't know that. So are there any other questions that came out that I can answer? Okay. If you guys have questions offline or out there that you want to ask me, just send it to Shane and he'll raise his hand and I'll answer them. Okay, so were you going to pull up the MLS? That's okay.
Jackie, if they say, well, I want my kids to go to this company, that's where their kids work.
Right.
And of course you can.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people. If you find a neighborhood that you absolutely love, I will find you whatever you're looking for. You're like, I love this neighborhood. All right, this is what I'm going to find for you. And if they can narrow, that's why you have them drive by, and then you can narrow that down for them. So, but that's okay to talk about. All right, I want this neighborhood. All right, let me find it for you. So he's going to pull up the MLS. Let's go with Fairfax County, and let's say we want a townhome. Let's keep it underneath. It's going to be a little bit more difficult, but let's keep it under 450, which is going to be tough, but you never know.
So if you select townhome, where would, say, like a duplex, would that fall into that search?
That is a good question. There are a lot of different styles. I'd have to ask that question. I don't know with multi-level homes if townhome would just be specifically, because there's a lot of townhomes that are attached. A duplex might be involved, but I have to find out.
Like in Alexandria,
Right.
where I grew up in, they were all duplexes.
Mhm.
Basically,
Right.
they were townhouses, but it was just in pairs.
Right.
So
That's a good question.
So technically, it's not a townhouse.
Mhm.
It's not a row of houses. You know,
That's a
but
good
it is an it's attached to something else.
I can find that out for you.
Up to 450.
Up to 450. Yeah, Fairfax. Let's do Fairfax. The MLS is like your gold. It's going to be great for your sellers and buyers. You're going to use it every day. I'm on the MLS on my phone, on my tablet, on my computer. What's that? Yeah, 3+, three bedrooms, minimum of 2 baths. There are advanced searches as you go. If you scroll down, there are advanced searches, but you have to look at them because people will give you their criteria, and it's not going to be in there, so you need to let them know. I like that third buyer that I had was so difficult. They were looking for main level bedroom, and as a listing agent, if you have a main level bedroom, put that in there when you go to Keystone. That's way down the line. But put that in there because people are going to search for that. A lot of agents don't put that in there, so you're not going to find it. So you're going to have to kind of weed through it. Okay, so if you want to just go active instead of under contract. Perfect. All right. Let's see. How do we narrow that down? Yeah, you can do a range. Let's do a range to kind of narrow that down. And you'll be able to play with this. I'm sure you have as well. But sometimes when you have too many matches, it's a lot to wade through them. And if you have an address, say your buyer came to you and said, I love this house. I know it's not for sale, but I really love this neighborhood. You can kind of go to the map search here and put that address in and then kind of do a radius search around there. And it'll just pick up those houses that are in that area. Or if you have a zip code as well, say somebody says, oh, gosh, I love Fairfax Station or I love Delray. I don't know. You have to put that in a subdivision. That's where you can kind of narrow it down. But we can kind of look at that. Why don't we go ahead and hit the results and we can look. Okay, so that one's in Springfield. And you will start learning as you start selling where these particular price ranges are. So I kind of knew that when I put this price range in there, it was going to be lower Fairfax County, Springfield, Burke, And that's probably where a lot of these are going to be. There might be a hodgepodge somewhere in and around this area, but you'll realize the closer you get to DC, the smaller the lots and the higher the price. And the bigger the lots, the higher the price. So this is, most of these are probably going to be Springfield, Lorton. It's not going to be any Loudoun County, so I'd have to look at a map where all of them are. Okay, so this one. So as I'm scrolling through, you're able to scroll through for them. It has the small backyard, so that's nice. I have a little dog, maybe I definitely need a small fenced-in backyard so I don't have to walk the dog every day. I know Deborah Hunter can attest to that. She has to walk her dogs a couple times a day. And so this is not a duplex, it's a townhome. But now you didn't really give me anything inside. These are your must-haves are a little bit more outside, but we definitely have, I don't know if you can scroll down, we look at the bedrooms here. We definitely have, this one has 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and a half bath. And talk to your people. I mean, if you're really looking at this house and they say, well, we need 4 bathrooms, does 3.5 count? Because a lot of people want a bathroom on the main level, even if it's just a bathroom, and then the rest either upstairs or downstairs in a townhome. So, and most of these, as you scroll down here, and you can go into MRIS when you finally get yours and print something out and just look at the different things, because you're always going to be looking at this. Sometimes as you get towards the outskirts, you're going to have well and septic, which is a totally different animal. Come ask the broker or come ask a more experienced agent, or if you have a mentor, ask them about that, because it's kind of a different animal. So that particular house had, I don't know about off-street parking, because it's kind of hard to see unless you look at the map. This is off Ravensworth. Sometimes if you want to look for off-street parking, you can, go to Google and do a Google view and see if you're looking at the house. Well, I have Mary Kay, so, and I have at least 10 people come to those, so I need off-street parking. Because right here we're talking about, but this is probably not going to be near a metro. So if that's like one of your most important, this is probably not going to be it. I don't think that being close to the metro is even an available search. It is? Awesome.
Show us how that's not there, Shane.
And there are going to be some more people that are agents that are much more attention to detail than others. Shane is very good. You can take your buyers out there and blindly show them houses, but if you really kind of figure out who your clients are and get to know them and what they want, if you have that list of those 5 must-haves, you're going to know that you're not just showing the homes. Okay, transportation. Okay. That's weird. Oh, that is awesome. You learn something new every day.
The challenge is,
If the listing agent.
again,
Yeah, again, we were talking about the main level bedroom. The challenge is whether or not, because I've been doing this 4 years and I didn't even know that field was there.
more than those are just, one of those 57 close to the match.
Right. Oh, that is amazing. And I'll have to talk to that when I mentor people. That's, if you ever take a class, as you get into the MLS for the first time, they have a lot of different webinars and classes that you can take online. Take those and learn this, because it's always evolving and always changing.
We'll make it Metro Rail bus for 1 mile and see if it changes it. So now we're going to see.
Okay, we're going to spend about another minute on this, but you get kind of the picture. When you have those criteria, what you're going to do is you're going to set them up on that search. And so you're going to have the meeting. You can either set them up right there, or you can set them up when you get back. So you're going to plug all of those things in and get that search. As you work with your mentor, or if you're working with another agent to kind of help you through that, they'll help you, because there's just a lot of little nuances, but they'll help you start that search. We're not going to do that today, but if you need help with that, just come to me. I'll help you. Okay, how do I set somebody up on a search? I can do that. Okay, so we're going to go on to page 16 to keep on schedule here and talk about showing homes. If a buyer has told you that, listen, I want to see these 5 homes, but this one I really want to see, show that home first, because they're going to compare the other ones to that. And if they really like this, I've found that working with buyers, that by the time they come to me and by the time they're actually looking at houses, they've seen a ton of houses online. And I tell people not to negate that. And I tell people, and I set that expectation up at the very beginning, you might find the home that you want the first time you look, because you've been looking for weeks. And you've narrowed it down to these, and these fit your criteria in your mind. Now we're going to go take a look at them and see if it really fits your criteria. It's important to show houses. So show that one first. Okay. We're going to talk about the home tour checklist. We have that on page 18. What you can do what I do when I set up when I come to meet with my buyers at the home, the first home that we go to, I actually hand them an open folder, Modelo folder, and it's got 2 little prongs on it, like a classification folder. I talk to you about putting paper on one side and the MLS printouts on the other. Instead of putting paper, you can put that home tour checklist. And the buyers, basically you want them to do is, does this fit your criteria? And you can explain to them, all right, we're going to go see this first home and these other 4. Here are the MLS printouts, so you have this information as well for while we're here and when you go home, and go through and check these off. Is this a living room that you like? Can they take notes? I found that there's always one, if there's a couple, there's always one that's a little more analytical and the note taker. Like with me, my husband, I'm the note taker, so I would appreciate if somebody handed me that. And I've really found that works. I put the date, and I can show you outside of this if you want me to show you how I do that. Go ahead.
So you're talking about showing houses to couples.
Right.
I'm sure that on occasion you're going to have just one of the people want to go look at houses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a good use of people's time? Because, especially if the one who's really wanting to see a house may not necessarily be the decision maker. You know what I mean? The reason I'm asking is way back when, for a period of time, I sold home security systems.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of our tenets that we used as a business was we didn't do what they called one-legged appointments. So we would not go on the appointment or demonstrate the system if both decision makers weren't there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's very important. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Sometimes the wife, especially in a hot market, you're going to find a house. The wife says, listen, I got to go, let's go see this. We've been looking for, 2 months now, and this house finally came on the market. So you can show the home, and with a caveat of saying, listen, let's go see this house, but we need to go see it again with your husband. Try to get them both together to maximize your time, but sometimes getting the husband in afterward, or the wife, or whatever kind of couple you're working with, or just a single person. Okay. Okay. But you're right. Making sure both decision makers. Definitely when you set up a listing appointment, which is another class, make sure both decision makers are there. And they'll talk about that when you do a pre-qualifying. All right, great, I set a listing appointment. I have a couple of questions to ask you. Same with the listing appointment, same with your buyers. Sometimes it happens that you'll show one and then you'll have to show it again. Because a lot of times the husband's like, listen, happy wife, happy life, or whoever you're talking about, and they just can't see it. But she's going to be the one that's going to say, all right, yay or nay, I want to go see this. And I'm not going to bring my husband because he's busy. He really only has an hour to see homes anyway. So sometimes it happens that way, but you be the gauge of that with the people that you're working with. So just don't let, because buyers will, if you allow them to, buyers will run your time. Hey, listen, I need to see property tonight. I'm off at 4. I want to see 5 homes between 4 and 6 tonight. And then they call you the next day. Hey, listen, I got another 5. Let's go see another one. So as you become a business owner in your own business selling real estate, you set your times because they'll run your time, as they did in the beginning for me. 76 homes, don't do it. Okay, but having that home tour checklist and putting that in that folder to give them so they can go down and check, all right, oh yeah, it does have, I love this living room, and they can write that down. Some people, their personality, listen, you can hand it to me, I'm going to hold it the whole time, and I'm mentally have my checklist. So, but I found that more often than not, that somebody's going to take notes. Or they can at least go back afterward and take a look at the MLS. They talk about it takes approximately 3 to 4 hours to tour 5 to 7 homes. And I've talked about this, avoiding anything longer as it will only exhaust your buyers and make it difficult for them to remember the property shown. That's why I normally don't show more than 5 or 6 properties at a time, and that's why I have them write down. Let's point out one key thing of this home that you like. Gosh, the backyard was amazing. Okay, this is an amazing backyard house or whatever, so they kind of qualify it. They do kind of start blending together. So one of the most important things of preparing your buyers to evaluate the home is helping them understand the things that they should look past. Ask your buyers for the comments on the homes and help them distinguish between the things they liked and the things they didn't like. So if their dislikes are things like the yard or the structure of the home, things that cannot be easily changed, ask them if this is a deal breaker. Some people who want a back deck on a townhome, this is a deal breaker for them. If you're showing them homes without a back deck and they don't have $5,000 to $15,000 to put a back deck on there, ask them, is this a deal breaker? Yes. All right, well, let's go on to the next one. So, and have your buyers use the home tour checklist to guide them as what to look at in the home and to make comments. Remember, every time you take buyers out to look at a home, you're also previewing the home for other potential buyers. As a real estate expert, you need to be aware of what's on the market. And I know they've talked about that. If you want to work a specific area, I live in Woodbridge, but I work here. Predominantly, my first 3 years was down in Prince William County. So I found out I'd love to show homes. That's why a lot of people got into this business, because they love homes and how they are and want to work with people. But knowing what's on your market, taking the time during the week, taking an hour or 2 during the week where you're going to say, all right, I'm going to go look at 5 homes in, you can stagger it throughout the week, or just say, I'm going to go look at 2 or 3 homes in this neighborhood that are on the market. And so you know your inventory, because when you meet with the buyer, you'll be like, oh, I just showed this home last week, or I just previewed this home last week. And it really is important. The most successful agents know their market. They know what's on the market because they're looking. If they have time, they know what's on the market because they're out there previewing those homes, and they know what's inside of them. Because you can look at pictures, but until you actually go in the home, you're not going to know. Maybe there was a smoker that lived there, and it could be the most beautiful home, but you walk in and it smells like cigarette smoke, and that's a deal breaker kind of a thing. So people will talk about that through your career. Go and preview homes. Go and preview homes. So if you don't have any particular neighborhood you're working with, start from here and go preview homes around the area. Go to brokers' opens, because when you have a brokers open, you're going to want them to come and take a look at your house too, so they can talk to their buyers. One of the things as you go through an existing home is what it talked about there is don't sweat the little stuff. Some people are walking a home and like, oh my gosh, it's brown in here. I hate brown. I can't do this. We're walking out. And you have to explain to them, listen, paint colors is superficial. I remember one time we were in a hallway in a very small home in Morton, and I think it was like bright green or something. She's like, we have to leave. This is bright green. And you have to tell them, listen, this is just paint. Paint is easily changed. You know, if you need help, I can find a painter. But it's like the small stuff, and especially, you know, after you get them under contract, don't sweat the small stuff. It's, you know, little nail holes in the wall, because nothing is going to be perfect. Now, if you're selling a new construction home and you're doing the walkthroughs, everything needs to be perfect. But when you're in an existing home, and you need to let them know and set that expectation, nothing's ever going to be perfect. All right, so when you go to tour the home, always carry cards with you. Sometimes I carry cards in here. I don't know, I think I have one in here, in the between here, because I think it's really important for the seller to know that you were actually in the home, that the agent was actually in the home. I had 2 people show a house yesterday. I'm the listing agent on a rental, and the wife was at home all the time, but she left twice, and that's when the agents came through. And neither one of them left a card. So I got a phone call. Excuse me, these were no-shows. And so I had to call the agents, and they're like, oh, we both came through there, but we didn't like the place. I was like, please just, you know, next time leave a card. You know, be that agent that you're going to leave a card so that the seller knows that you were there. A lot of sellers will keep those cards. All right, well, this, you know, I have some very analytical buyers. Was it this buyer that came with this agent? But it just lets them know. It's just the polite thing to do. So,
there's certain houses I go in, there's completely empty.
right.
I'm not sure where.
Oh, you mean like
Counter.
like a vacant home?
Yeah.
I still leave a card.
Yeah, this is when you at the kitchen counter.
Yeah, I'll probably normally leave it at the kitchen. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Okay, you can be tardy every day. No, I'm just joking. Don't be tardy. Don't be tardy. Okay, so when you come up to a door, I used to be a police officer, and even though they knew I was coming, I always rang the doorbell. I kind of take that same position when I go to show homes. Even though you know they're not home, sometimes they haven't left yet. Always ring the doorbell, always knock on the door. I always make sure, I do my cop knock or whatever, but I make sure I knock hard, I ring the doorbell, and, you know, I go to the sentry lock, I'll go to open it up, and even when I open up that front door, the first thing I'm going to say is, Keller Williams, agent, coming in, even though I know they're not there. I do this every time because you just never know. There might be somebody that took a shower and they forgot that you were coming today. And you don't want to be on the other end of a barrel. It might not happen, but you never know. I actually had an agent show a home that I actually had under contract, and it was a military buyer, and he was in the shower, and she was supposed to show the home 2 doors down and showed the wrong one. It happens accidentally. Now, if somebody does it on purpose, that's a different story. That's a fine and all sorts of other stuff. But and he was actually upstairs, and he had just gotten out of the shower and had the TV on downstairs, and the agent walked through, and he's heard something downstairs. So you just never know. You'll just announce yourself. It's just good business practice. Right.
He knew that there was someone coming. I guess
Right.
he forgot, so he could hear it inside the house. He was cleaning up all that. But yeah, those type of things happen. You just gotta make sure.
Right. We talked about have your buyers giving descriptive names to help them visualize the home, you know, the Great View house, the Creek house, the Fountain house, the Big Fence house, or whatever, and it kind of identify. When you're touring properties, avoid making comments. Don't be the Vanna White. Don't be, oh my gosh, and this is over here, because you see a lot of shows on TV, and that's what they do. But really, you want the buyers to make their own decisions. You want the buyers to make their own comments, and you want them to kind of move in. As you start showing property and as you start working with buyers, you'll realize when the buyers are ready to buy. I call it the buyer frenzy. And I tell my husband, it's literally, and you worked with buyers as well, it's literally like that day or two before they're ready to make that decision, and this is all they can think about. I tell my husband, I'm like, all right, clear the calendar. I'm not coming home. I'm showing property. They're ready. And as you work with more buyers, you'll pick up on that. But go ahead.
So what if it's something negative that you observe about the house? that you think is important that they need to know? For example, when I bought my last townhouse,
Right.
My realtor, somebody you actually know, has the nose of a bloodhound.
Yeah.
And you walk into a townhouse, and she's like, "It smells musky."
Yep.
And to me, that was awesome because
Yeah.
having a musty smell
Right.
could mean that there is a water issue somewhere.
If it's a serious structural or something issue like that, I would say that. I'm very good with my nose as well, probably because I can't hear very well. But you want to say those kind of comments as you're walking through. I tell my people at the table during my buyer consultation, well, you're looking at the house. I'm going to be looking at seams. I'm going to be looking for signs of, there's always going to be nail pops, especially, maybe a year or two home, depending. But if you see a series of nail pops all over here and maybe some other issues, it's going to indicate to me, because I've been through home inspections, that maybe there's a foundation issue outside. Maybe there's a gutter. It always kind of leads to the gutters are clogged, water's going down where it shouldn't, and maybe the house is trying to settle. And so you're looking for things like that. And you'll tell people, if I'm walking through a house and I see a crack right here, I'll say, listen, okay, I see this crack. Normally when it's kind of up and down like this, it's good. But if you see a crack all along the wall here, that's going to be a structural issue, horizontal. It just depends on what it looks like. I'll point out those not necessarily negative comments, but something to look for. As we're going through, sometimes I will, like on the HVAC, I'll go look at the sticker, and you kind of get used to, if you talk to a home inspector when you're first one or two, you can kind of look at the sticker and ask them where the date is, because everyone's different, but you can kind of see, and sometimes they have those stickers on it where you write where they've come and done the inspection, the yearly inspection. And if you haven't seen a yearly inspection for maybe 10 years, and it's a 20-year-old unit and it still works fine, they're not going to replace it. But you might want to ask, if they're going to put a contract on the home, you might want to ask for a HVAC service within the last year. So, but yes, you can point out things, but you don't want to point out everything, because your opinion is going to be different. I've looked at a house and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so yellow, it's so ugly. And you just don't say anything, because some people, that person walked in there and she's like, oh, wow, I love this color. And it's like, ooh. But you never know what people are going to like, so you just kind of have to refrain. Structural issues, musty, all of that stuff, especially when you're walking in the basement, definitely. Yeah, probably. She's got a nose. I didn't touch the heat. Could be. I'm a little nervous up here. No, I'm just joking. Have the buyers rank the houses and shown in order of 1 through 5. If you're working with a couple, have them do this at the same time to see if they're on the same page. If it's just one person, if you get in the habit of this in the beginning, it will just become a habit instead of kind of forcing yourself as you go through. What did you think of this house? Ask them those opinions, because you can look at houses and like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. Let me know what you think of it. But you want to know, this is your time, this is your job. Ask them, what did you think of this house as they leave? Or, as they leave. And after you're done with that last house, rank these houses in order. Which one did you think was the best out of all of them, even if they weren't going to purchase it? Okay, because it kind of helps you identify. And if you keep your eye on them and exactly what they're wanting instead of just showing the property, you're going to get them under contract quicker, because you're going to help them narrow down what they want. One of the things that I also ask is, do you see yourself living here? You'll kind of pick up on their signs. Oh my gosh, our green couch would look awesome over here. We've got this furniture. When they start moving their furniture in, these are kind of the signs that they're really interested. I think we've all done that. It's like, oh my gosh, I got this couch. Oh, we have to buy a new one. Okay. And also at the very end, if someone says, wow, I really love that first house we saw. I knew I was going to love it. I looked at it online. Ask them, are you guys ready to make an offer? Are you guys interested? And then the next step comes from there. But don't be afraid to ask those questions, because if you don't ask, you're not going to know the answer. We're going to go ahead and review a little bit of touring etiquette. And that's just being respectful to the other agent as you would want them to be with you. Leave the home as you found it, including lights, air conditioning, and heat. I put in all of my listings, don't touch the thermostat. But as an agent, when I come into a buyer, if it's not listed on there, you want your clients to be comfortable. If it's hot out, you want that AC on. If it's because a lot of houses that are vacant, they're going to turn down the air conditioner, or they're going to, you know what I mean, turn off the heat. You want your buyers to be comfortable as they're walking through the house. You don't want them to feel cold or too hot. So I'll go and turn up the thermostat, not too much, but enough to make my clients comfortable, and then turn it back down if you're going to do that. I wouldn't do it on a regular home unless it's extreme, but leave it as you found it. It's listen, if somebody really has to use the bathroom, let them do that. And then I might just mention it to the listing agent. But sometimes you have to. Well, another thing I've learned about buyers. What's that? Yeah.
But what if they don't live there? I've experienced this buying my own home where they don't live there and they shut the water off.
I'd really want to know why they shut the water off, because the only time I've ever encountered water shut off is on a pre-foreclosure, because it's been winterized by the company that in the pre-foreclosure. But if they turned the water off, that's a red flag for me.
Yeah, I think when they turn the water, for us, for when I was buying mine, they turned the water off because polyurethane piping. They
Oh,
weren't living there.
okay.
That's big.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Yeah, so it's a red flag. So if you go to turn on water, because your buyers are gonna touch things. Just make sure they don't. I don't know if it mentions it here, but they don't need to touch somebody's furniture. If you've got somebody looking in a bedroom and they start, because they'll grab for the closet door, they'll grab for the curtains, they'll open up the closets. That's normal stuff. They'll open up the cabinets underneath the in the sink to make sure. And sometimes I might as well to make sure there's no drippage. You're looking for moisture. But if they start touching somebody else's furniture, you just say, hey, listen, that's not included, so we're not going to, just be nonchalant about it. But yeah, you don't want them taking something and then it comes back on you. Be sure to look for and observe all touring notes in the MLS or given by the listing agent. So there are a lot of very, very picky sellers, and if you do something that goes, you need to know what those comments are. Please do not open the pantry door. There's a picture of it in the MLS, but I've got my little Yorkie in here, and he likes to run. So, and you'll never get him back in here, and he's kind of aggressive. And if you didn't read that and you let your buyer, it could fall back on you. So just make sure that you review all of those, review the times, restricted times, anything that's in there. If you actually totally flagrantly avoid what the comments say, you can actually get fined through NVAR, MLS, Northern Virginia Association. I don't know who does it, but just read it and follow it, and make sure your buyers follow it as well. Always leave a card on the counter to let the seller know you were there. If the home listing should expire, it may be good that the seller knows you actually brought buyers in. You never know. That's not why I leave a card there, but I never thought about it that way. Make sure to secure the house and lock the house when you leave. A lot of times when I walk in a house, if it's totally dark, especially if it's at night, I'll go turn all the lights on, every single one of them. I'll even go to regular lights and turn them on if that's the only thing in the room. Make sure if your buyers are standing at the door, make sure you go to that backsliding door, upstairs, downstairs. If you opened a window, make sure it's locked. Make sure everything is exactly the same. Some sellers are extremely fastidious. I actually had one seller that, this wasn't related to somebody touring the home, but there was a couple of items on the kitchen, and she didn't want anybody touching her stuff. And I moved some of her items to take a picture, and she couldn't go to work for 2 days. So just be mindful of people's stuff and other things. So I think that was her personal thing, but now I try not to touch anything, so without permission. We kind of already, I guess we can go and you guys want to do a little activity to kind of break this up? Okay. Pick a partner. I guess there's 3 of you here and there's 2 of you here. There's a chart on page 21 that lists 3 common features that you might want a buyer to notice, maybe a new roof, a fireplace, or whatever, and list the benefits of that feature. So one of the things that we do when we're showing homes is, okay, there's a large yard, and that was on their list. Or maybe that wasn't on their list, and maybe they were poo-pooing about it. What's that benefit? Wow, we got a large yard. I don't want to do all that laundry. I mean, not laundry. I don't want to do all that yard work. But you know what? What's the benefit of that? That's a place for the kids to play soccer. Man, you have so much room for your dog to run around. Or, you know, when you entertain friends in the summer or even in the winter, that's a great place for entertaining friends. So why don't you get in group and list 3 benefits of a house, or 3 points of a house, and what are the benefits of those? I don't have access to the online people, but if you have any questions, I guess I can answer them. I have to look at the computer. I got a love cup.
There's no cream in there.
That's fine.
Sure?
Yeah. That's right. I don't like it black, but I'll drink it black. That's what I'm trying to do these days. No dairy. Sugar's awful.
So after a while, people don't want it, it'll be too rich for you.
No, I don't believe that. I know. I know. I'm excited.
She's never done that. She's 6.
Big open concept.
Oh my God. We now want to go to school.
Great. Why is it great? Well, the feature is that it allows you.
My baby needs to not go to school too,
Furniture or
every day.
So that's what we're looking for, I think, is for us
Oh,
to do,
yeah.
All good.
is to translate those common features that people want.
Hey.
Let me go see if there's some on.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
A lot of people think they want that, but it goes down to like, so they create
Right. Right. So you want outdoor space, but not necessarily a yard.
Hardwood floor, because carpets, people with allergies these days, everybody's got an allergy, allergy to everything. So,
So what's another common feature?
A lot of people are enduring those carpets. So with the hardwood floor, you don't have to worry about allergies, and easy to clean. Yep. Gas.
Or the fact that the kitchen's outdated.
Gas stove.
yeah.
So the feature for that would be that, you know, maybe it's an update.
Obviously, they like to cook. You can control the temperature better. If the power goes out, you still have the ability to cook. If you have a, like me,
Right.
a percolator. It's not, from my experience, economical. Yeah, just kind of switch it off.
Yeah. Separate use space.
Other two things that I look for. It's in your, obviously. Especially kids.
Off-street parking.
Nowadays, a lot of places, I
And you never
noticed
have
like
to,
the
never have to search for one
places,
spot,
they
you
don't
always
really
have.
have a lot of fences. People do
In the suburbs, usually it is. I mean, in some townhouse complexes, so
fence
you'll
there
find
to
that,
pets.
maybe 1 or 2 assigned spaces.
A
That's
lot of
what
the
it is. So,
I
you
know,
know,
a lot
that
of
may
the,
not be the place for you if you entertain a lot and there's no place for parking within a
Me
reasonable
too.
walk. You know? But, you know, most of the time outside of the city, you'll have those opportunities for off-street parking or reserve parking, but like,
I don't.
that's what you parking may be their only option. I could imagine trying to live like that, where you pull up in your neighborhood at 9 o'clock at night, you just get home and now you gotta hunt for 20 minutes to find a parking spot.
I like to wake up. Sun's rising.
Yeah, not as dark.
Yeah, sun's rising.
Yeah. But you'll find that a lot of homes, they only have two that.
Right.
Okay, about 2 more minutes.
Well,
You guys almost ready to talk about benefits? Everything all good? Awesome. Are you guys ready to talk about benefits?
sure.
Awesome. You want the mic? Okay, it's important. Almonds,
I had.
granola.
It's helping earlier.
Okay,
The second helping is in a couple hours.
all right.
We talked food yesterday. We're bringing it to the Spartan race. Are you doing Spartan?
What?
I will.
I haven't signed up.
You need to sign up?
Spartan race. Yeah, Spartan race.
What is it?
I'm not sure. I just know there's no mud involved in this and it's an obstacle
Just
course.
running through.
What do you mean there's no mud? Of course there's mud.
Mudless. It said mudless.
I wanted to be.
So that's
They said
why.
This one's gonna be mudless. Probably the Nationals, unlike the Boston Red Sox, don't wanna mess the field up.
Oh, okay. All right, so what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you name off a benefit. So we'll go with this group right here. So just name off the benefit and we'll try to figure out what the feature is. Okay?
We're gonna go back.
We're going to go backwards. So I want you to talk about the benefit and we'll try to guess what that feature is.
Ooh, I like it.
I'm going backwards.
And so if you want to read off that the benefits.
Okay, so,
Oh, yeah, can we start?
go ahead.
Okay.
We already booked mine.
Okay.
So this is very simple. So if you like cooking, if you like to control the temperature, if the power goes out, you can still cook it or cook, and it's economical.
What am I?
Solar power.
If you like cooking,
Well, I think you're either talking about a kitchen or a gas cooktop.
Yeah.
Right, gas.
You.
Or just gas in general, natural gas.
Yes,
Right,
gas in general, because when the power goes out.
Right.
If you're smart like me and you have a percolator that goes on the top of your stovetop, you will always have coffee.
right,
You can always cook by candlelight.
Yep.
Economical.
right.
You can control the heat temperature when you're cooking if you love to cook.
Most gas stoves have an electric igniter now.
No, you can still do it. You just go with your match. Poof.
Hmm.
Pioneer woman, lived on Cape Cod, electricity.
All right, what's your second feature? What's your second,
Can I do it?
what's your second one?
What am I? It reduces allergy reaction, easy to clean.
Solid surface floors. Carpet floors.
Very good.
Black
Yeah,
carpet.
huge this day and age.
What is it?
Everybody's allergic to everything.
Hardwood floor.
Hardwood floors, right,
Everybody's
hardwood
allergic
floors.
to everything.
Right.
One of the highest, the most common allergen that most people are allergic to, don't even know it, are dust mites.
Mm-hmm,
Huge. So,
right. It's very true. I even had a vacant house that we put carpet in, and I had to go buy, because the house had never had pets in it at all. And so for me to bring a vacuum in, because there was so much carpet upstairs and downstairs, I actually went and bought like a $50 vacuum. I ended up taking it back to my storage, but because it was a brand new vacuum, there weren't any, because I have 2 dogs. So for me to bring my vacuum, I would have introduced that in there. So I don't do that for everyone, but that one in particular I did. Okay, so what's your third one?
we have a toss-up between two. It's 10 below 0, and I don't feel like going on a jog walk. What am I?
Backyard.
What am I? Yes. I'm a
Fenced backyard. Nice. Okay, so you get it. So what do you guys have down?
All
Or,
right, so the ability to create different seating areas wherever you want, accommodates a larger group of people.
could be either maybe a living room or a dining room?
Open area?
Open. Open floor plan, right on. Okay, what's the next one? Very big these days, open floor plan.
I know.
You will encounter a lot of 80s style homes, and I'll talk to that about people. You know, here's, in the 80s, it was very room, but a lot of people want open concept. That's what we want right now.
But I've read an article about how they're trying to bring the dining room is coming back.
Not around here.
Yeah, not really around here. Well, people have dining rooms. I have a combo, which I don't like, but I like having a dining room.
A lot of people don't use dining rooms anymore.
Love my dining room.
The families are so on the go, they end
Yeah.
up using the space for something else.
Yeah, sometimes.
They rarely sit down and have a family dinner. Kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it depends if you have a super cool barn door.
What did you want to say?
Okay, so this gives you the ability to host parties with unlimited people and everybody can come in their own car. They don't have
Big
to-
driveway.
Large driveway?
Well, like unlimited. Not unlimited, but let's say you have a party for 20 people, everybody can come each in their own car.
Yeah, you have a big-
So off-street parking, ample off-street parking,
Okay, wait, cul-de-sac?
cul-de-sac. Okay. What's the third one? You have a third one? Hmm? What was that?
I guess the benefit would be grilling outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
Nice area for entertainment.
Deck.
A deck or a patio?
Nice one.
Big these days. I think outdoor entertaining in this area is much more important than a dining room these days. People want to be outdoor space. It's very big here.
Not necessarily a yard.
Right, but outdoor space. Right.
Or screened in door.
Yeah, that. Because it's just a couple of bugs here. We don't have little bugs here. We have big bugs here. Okay, one of the things we talked about a little bit before is recognizing the buying signals as you tour the home. Pay attention to your clients' buying signals as you are touring properties. This will give you the leverage you need to help a buyer make a decision. You'll start, if you're paying attention to your clients, you'll start picking up on these the more buyers you show. Once you know who the decision maker in the family is, kind of keep your focus on them if possible. Some of the most common buying signals are listed below. Body language, facial expressions, smiling, brightening up, asking you about the seller's motivation. What is the seller's motivation on this house? Asking detailed questions, such as about the disclosure or taxes, visualizing furniture placement. This is the biggest thing when just one person is talking about, like they're sitting there staring, you ask them, hey, what's going on? Or if a couple is there, ask them what they're talking about. They'll talk right in front of you about, oh my gosh, our green couch will go here. And they'll start, or just one individual ask those questions. I even had people start pulling out the measure because they know what their furniture is. Some people are very analytical that way. Comparing other houses to it. Oh my gosh, this one is so much better than that other one we looked at. Discussing new paint or carpet. I don't like this yellow, but we could paint this that gray that's on that wall we saw in this room. We'll start talking about that. A huge one for me is sitting down in the house. When they start sitting down on the owner's furniture, they're picturing themselves moving in. Like if they're in the living room and they sit down. Normally people don't. They just don't do it. They don't sit down on people's dining room table. They don't sit down on the furniture. But when they make that decision, sometimes they're sitting down there thinking about it. What would I do if I was sitting here? Becoming proactive, not wanting buyers to see the property. I've actually shown property where I knew it was hot, it was underpriced, and I bought the contract. I knew people were behind me waiting to see the house, and I actually brought the contract with me, had everything filled out except for a couple of things, and we signed that contract right there, and I literally went out of my car and basically, I'm trying to remember what the program was. I'll remember in a minute, but I just took a picture of the contract and I already had their pre-approval letter, and I sent it from there. We ended up not getting it because they were outbid, but we were the first offer in. That's rare, but sometimes it happens that way. And when you're having your buyer consultation, you have to let people know, I'm never going to push you into making a decision, but in a hot market, the good homes are going to go fast. It's just something you have to talk about. The good homes are going to go fast, and you might want to make an offer. What I give a buyer when I first sit down with the consultation, in the packet that I want them to look at later is a copy of the contract. And I tell them, please look through this contract. If you have any questions, we'll sit down and talk about it. If you want me to come over, we'll sit down and talk about it. Because it might come that we've been looking for a while, we've been looking for a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden we find the right house, just came on the market, and the listing agent says there's 5 people behind you getting ready to see that house. I have to let my buyer know, listen, there's 5 people behind us. This house is going to go today. It's really good price. And so they need to know that kind of stuff. When they ask for a second showing, sometimes you've seen the house, they like it, and you call them up in the afternoon. If they haven't made a decision yet, listen, we're thinking about it, but let's go see it again. And some people will do that. They'll go see a second showing. Raising objections. And this last one is kind of odd because you would think if they say, I do not like this living room, you can't take that at face value. Sometimes people will say, that they don't like a certain thing, but they're actually trying to convince themselves they really like it. They're kind of convincing themselves that they don't, especially if you're showing them houses for the first time. They're like, there's no way I can buy it the first time. And I have to remind people, listen, you might find that house that first time. Don't be afraid of that because you have looked for weeks online. So you've been viewing homes. There are not only are there pictures that you can see, there are tours, some of the bigger homes, depending on the agent. Sometimes they do it virtual tours for everything. So you can basically walk through the house right at your computer. So people have seen a lot of homes. So I tell them not to be surprised. And, we also talk about the average person buys a home within 5 to 7 houses. You have to set that expectation because if you let your buyers run you around, they will. I have been there. I don't let them do it anymore. So I have to clamp down. Let's go over some of these objections on page 23. Can I get, I'll say the objection, and can I get somebody to read the script? Tim, do you want to go ahead and read that? We love it, but we haven't seen enough properties yet.
Jackie, my role as a buyer specialist, and the reason why we met for a consultation is to sort through the homes that meet your criteria and only show you the best homes, the cream of the crop. And the best homes in the market go fast, usually in 1, maybe 2 days. If you love this home, chances are someone else does too. If you're willing to lose the perfect home, are you willing to lose the perfect home? Your wow home, the one you absolutely love, just so you can see everything out there?
Right. Okay, who else wants to read? You want to read, Dennis?
Sure.
Okay. We really want a formal dining room.
Jackie, remember at our first meeting when we talked about there being no such thing as a 100% house? We identified,
And you got your 5 must-haves.
yeah. What are we supposed to do on that?
Whatever those 5 must-haves. So say being close to the metro.
Close to the metro, small backyard, off-street parking, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a patio.
Right.
Those were your 5 must-haves. Has formal dining room take precedence over one of those items? If so, which one?
Right. This sometimes happens where they start looking at houses and what they think they really wanted is not what they really wanted. And so that will change. And so you need to ask those questions. Would you like to read the last one? We don't like the carpet, the paint, or the landscaping.
I hear what you're saying, and this home does offer you a chance to add your own personal touches. Would it be better for you to pay a higher price for the seller to make the changes, or just redo this one thing yourself to meet your specific needs?
Great. Okay, we're now on page 24, and as this is going towards the end of the process. You've done your buyer consultation. You've showed the homes, bringing your buyers to a decision. One of the things you have to remember, you are not you're not a tour guide with a lockbox key. You know, some people, I've had even my friends ask me, oh my gosh, I just love seeing homes. No, we're not going to buy a home. Well, can we just go look at homes? Have you had somebody ask you? Yeah, I mean, I've had people ask me, we're not a tour guide. Your wife?
That's an exception.
Yeah. You know, we have a professional obligation to bring in, and I tell this to my buyers as well, especially the ones that do not like to sign the agreement. I won't work with them, but we have a professional obligation to bring a qualified buyer into a home that you are showing. So I just don't show, if I don't have that buyer broker agreement, if I don't have that pre-approval already, where I know what their buying power is, that's what I call it, buying power, because I don't ever say you can't afford it, because that really sets off things in people. So when you say, hey, listen, we got to find out what your buying power is, so we know exactly where you are. I mean, it's a very positive statement, but you have a professional obligation to make sure that you provide a qualified buyer in that house. The listing agent's going to expect it, the seller's going to expect it, and just to show their home just because it's on the market. I mean, it's just unethical. We just don't do it. Don't ever do it. Your job, once you have helped them find the right home, is to facilitate the decision-making process for your buyers so they can make an offer and get the home they want before someone else does. This is an important milestone in the home buying process, and it's still your job as the buyer's agent to bring them to that, to bring them from the initial meeting all the way to closing. This is just part of it. I tell my buyers when I sit down at the consultation, listen, the hardest part you're going to have is finding the right home and dealing a little bit with the finances. Everything else, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of everything else. So this is one of the easiest things you've ever done. I know you think it's going to be real complicated. It's not. Us as an agent, that's our job, to help them through the process, make it easier for them. And it also lets them know that after they've gone through the process and they closed on their house, that they can refer you. Because it's not just about that one transaction. It's about, I really take care of my clients and my tenants and my sellers so that in the future they can refer me people. And so that's how your business keeps growing. Because your sphere is only so large, and there are people that you haven't met. And so if you do a good job for them, then you follow up with them. That's all part of this whole process, follow up with them and possibly get referrals from them. Each time you show a new property, ask your buyer to rank the property. We already talked about that. We're on 25 now. After each showing, ask them if they were interested in purchasing any of the houses, especially if you say, oh gosh, that one that you really liked, are you ready to write an offer? You have to ask that question. If they're not, ask them if anything's changed, or listen, we still need to see a couple more houses. I really love this neighborhood. We haven't seen any. So just ask that question so you know in your mind, you're not just showing houses after houses. When you finish touring the homes, we talked about that. Eliminate all but the top 2 ranking homes. I'm trying to think of where this video, is this video, when does the video come next? On the next page, okay. And they'll go over a little bit of this. So now you've got the highest scoring home, ask them, is this your favorite? Is it going to be your new home? You have to be, and it might not be those questions, but it might be, well, how do you feel about this home? What do you think? Just ask them, be in tune with them. And you'll be able to tell as, again, the more experience you have, but even I think your first buyer, you're going to sense that excitement when they're ready. You'll kind of tell. But sometimes some people aren't as excited. Like me, you're going to know. Donna, you're going to know when we're excited, but some people are just not that excited and you're not going to know, so you have to ask that question. Sometimes, if you have the time, take that MLS sheet that you have in your folder, turn it over. If they're really considering this home, all right, what are the pros and cons? I've never done this, but this is a great idea, especially if they're kind of on the fence. What's the pros of this house? What's the cons of this house? Help them make that decision to purchase a home. Again, one of the things that they really talk about here is not extending the process. Start to purchase to closing. Okay, so we're going to watch a video. It's called Creating Buyer Urgency. And if you have any questions, you can ask them afterward.
Sean Healy, and today I'm going to teach you how to create buyer urgency through the showing process. And the first step is setting expectations. We tell buyers that it is a seller's market, and what that means is the best homes go fast. The next area that we set expectations in is multiple offers. We tell our buyers there's going to be a lot of other buyers out there, and you may find yourself in a competitive situation. The third area that we set expectations on is condition. Many of the homes that they're going into are going to be move-in ready, but they need a little bit of work. The next step in the process we call the funnel. And essentially, we're trying to take the entire MLS and funnel it down so that at the end of the day, there can be only one house that kicks out the bottom. What I'd like you to do tonight, pick out the best 10 or 15 homes, and then tomorrow drive by those homes and check them out. I want you to pick out the best 3 or 4, and we'll go out and take a look at those homes. Next part is the actual showing process. We show the first house. We'll ask the buyer, on a scale of 1 to 7, leaving out the 4, 7 being perfect, and there is no perfect home, and 1 being unlivable, where would you rate this home? Inevitably, the buyer would answer, it's a 5. And the reason they give you a 5 is because they don't have anything else to compare it to on the very first home that they've gone to see. Then what you want to do is try and reinforce what's making it a 5 for you. Then the next question you ask said, what are some of the things that you would do to move it more towards a 7 if you were to purchase it? You go on to the next house. Now you ask an alternative of choice question. Pretend you had to buy one of these 2 houses today. Which one would it be? The last one we saw, or this one? They liked the first one better. Perfect. Go to the third house. The third house, you do the same thing. You say, all right, Gary, pretend there's only 2 homes on the market and you have to buy one today. Which one is it? The first one we saw, or this one? And they say, this one. And you repeat that process over and over until you get to the last house. And at the end of the day, you say, well, it looks like 123 Main Street was your favorite house. So right there from the house, we call the listing agent, find out if the home is still available. Let's go back to the office and get this property written up before somebody else gets it. My biggest aha out of this came when I was out with one of my first-time buyer families, and we drove up to the first house, and my buyer said, I don't even want to go in that one. What he ended up telling me at the end of that trip was, Sean, what I want you to do is print me out a list of every home that matches my criteria I'm going to drive by those homes and I'll tell you which ones I want to see. Aha! Hey, thanks for watching KW Connect and make it a great day.
I was kind of reiterating what I've been saying. I had a thought. I'll bring it back in a minute. Okay. Okay, so if you've seen 5 properties, and you know, I know that they really talk about seeing that most people buy within 5 or 7 properties. I think my average is a little bit higher. I don't know why. I think I really let them come to that decision. I want my buyers to be absolute about that. But again, if you're starting to show 15, 20 homes, you know, you're clearly either, you gotta reassess what's going on. Are they not motivated? Because I've showed homes to this one couple, and we wrote 5 offers, and every single one of them was low. Say the house was $500,000, they came in at $450. Well, let's see if we can get this house. And then the next one was the same thing. It was $20,000 less, knowing full well that the seller was not going to accept it, but maybe they'll take it if they can get it for this price. This was newer in my career, and we went through this 5 times. And the last house, they actually put an offer on, loved it, huge space. She was a piano teacher. It was going to be amazing. And this brings up another point. Wrote a contract, and as we were talking with the lender finally said, okay, well, at that price, it was at the top of their market, at that price, this is going to be the monthly payment. And that's when they realized, whoa, we're going to be house poor if we make that monthly payment. So one of the things that's really important as you're going through the process and as they're talking to their lender is making sure if you were looking in a certain price range that they're talking either to you or the lender about what's the monthly payment. And that can be easy as if you see a house and they're really interested in it, I can just call my lender up. How about I get you an approximate monthly payment on that? Will that help you make the decision? So just trying to, go ahead.
Can I say one thing in this?
Yeah.
When you guys do that, if you have a client that's interested in a property, you probably already know this. Send us the MRIS link to the property, because that'll give us the taxes, the HOA fees. There's tons of HOA fees in Northern Virginia, anywhere from $30. Hello. No, I hate that thing.
Because it gets old.
They won't let me drop the mic, so I don't use the mic.
Because we're online.
HOA fees can be anywhere from $30 a month to $200 a month. Makes a massive difference in the payment. Send us the MRIS link for the properties you're looking at, and that way our estimate is a lot more accurate. Okay? It's real simple, and it's that way you're teaming with us to make the estimate correct for that buyer. Yeah. Okay? That's all.
Yeah, don't get.
If it's a condo.
Right, a condo. There's a lot of very high condo fees in this area.
Yeah.
But definitely, if I would have done my homework before, and it just also comes with experience, you'll realize when you're in a certain price range and in a certain neighborhood, approximately what your house payment is. But that's as you sell more homes and you go through closing and you see about what the, you're not normally privy to the financial part. You do your part, the finance, you don't commingle those. We don't ask what their credit report are. They're either going to have the buying power right now or they're not. And so we just always keep that positive. But it would have saved me a lot of time. And they actually had to go back, and 3 to 4 months later, they were finally ready. They were finally motivated enough. But I needed to ask those questions, and I didn't ask. And I wasted, they came to me, and they'd actually seen over 50 homes with another agent. And when I did my buyer consultation with them, I found out that they didn't even know what an earnest money deposit was. The other agent, after seeing 50 homes, they weren't ready to purchase. After seeing 50 homes, they didn't even know what an earnest money deposit was. So that's why it's really important to go over the process. But yeah, that was. They are amazing friends right now. Sorry about that. But it was a process, definitely. Oh, go ahead.
When do you usually send your buyer
What do you mean?
Is there a day that you'd like to send out some of the listings for your buyers?
Well, as soon as I know that they're ready to get on the search. What's that? Oh, your question?
Yeah.
I'm having a problem here. Okay, so what he was asking was, when do you sign them up on a search? When do you send the search?
What day? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Well, if you have them set up on an automatic search, it sends it to them whenever the stuff comes.
Right.
I do, if you want to. I'll send it once a week, just
Okay.
for other properties.
Right.
Before we go out.
Right.
Et cetera, and then you can look at it. Do you not do that? You just send every new property that comes out?
Yes, that's normally what I do. Basically what his question is when do you set them up on a search, and do you let it go? This is what the conversation is. Do you let it go automatic, or do you go like Tim here, and he only sends it out once a week before they go out? You can ask your buyers, what do they want? Do you want me to send it once a week, or do you want them as soon as they hit the market? People that are I find that people that are in the buying zone, they look all the time. They're not just looking once a week. They're looking all the time. And if they're really in the zone to buy, and a house comes on the market on Tuesday, normally I'll put my houses on the market Monday or Tuesday because it allows for a couple of days, unless it's a super hot property, maybe on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and it gives it a couple of days to hit the Zillows and all that other stuff. And then I have showings Friday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And if it's a real hot property, I'll wait till Sunday afternoon. I'll let my seller know, let's wait till Sunday afternoon. We'll have an open house. Maximize this. You get a couple of offers. It just depends on the property, but also depends on the buyer, and you can ask them. But me personally, I always set them up on a search that goes automatically. So. All right. Talk about overcoming buyer reluctance. Once you've seen the best houses that meet the buyer's criteria, you may have to help your buyers overcome buyer reluctance, which is what we're talking about. This whole process through here. It's a common issue, and many people experience when they are suddenly faced with the reality of actually making an offer for one of the greatest financial investment of their lives. Your job, which we have talked about, is not to sell your buyers a home that isn't right for him, but it's your job to help them recognize when a home fits their needs, wants, and values. That's why the buyer consultation is so important. Some people will do a buyer consultation, 6 months before they actually buy. But I try to, if a buyer's telling me that they're interested in purchasing, I'll try to get in front of them as soon as I can, because I don't want somebody else to take that opportunity, because I know eventually they're going to purchase. They're either going to purchase now, or they're going to purchase 6 months from now, or maybe next year. And so, especially first-time home buyers, they need to have information. They need to know. So many people, I know when I first bought my first house, I had no idea the process. And I had an amazing lender that basically gave me an amazing realtor and set up the process for me. I went through a firefighter friend of mine. He sold the house to me, but I had no idea what I was doing. So if they're not ready to purchase, help them to purchase. And if they're not really ready to purchase, say, hey, listen, I'm always here if you're not ready to make that decision, and be open about it. I'm very patient and very, I guess the word is patient. Buyers can test your patience. Some people love buyers, and some people will work with buyers, but they love working with listings better. Ultimately, your job as a agent here in Keller Williams is leads, listings, and leverage, and buyers will come from that. As a single agent, you're always going to work with both. Some people love working with buyers better, some people working with listings, and as you get more experienced and as you build your team, which I hope you guys will, you're just starting out here, but having those goal sets, I'm going to have a team someday, then you can hire that admin and hire that buyer's agent if you don't want to work with buyers. So I know my mom, when my mom and I worked together, she loved the listings, and I loved working with buyers. I love working with listers as well, but buyers are definitely my passion. So, all right. Another thing that's real important is always scheduling the next showing. right when you're done. Okay, you didn't like any of these homes. I get it. You want to go see those homes in that neighborhood. All right, when do you want to schedule it? Pull out your book, pull out your phone, and schedule that next session. Even if you don't find houses to see, at least you have it on the books. They know that, keep looking. Some people get really busy, and that also lets you know their motivation. I don't want to see any more houses right now. I'm kind of done. And so always schedule that next showing before you're done. All right, we have some more objections to purchasing. Donna, would you like to read here? This, we're on page 28. We're talking about objections to purchasing. Some people, a lot of buyers think they really know the market, and sometimes they don't. And so you kind of have to, knowing the scripts are amazing. When I first started, I thought, oh gosh, I don't want to sound scripted, but knowing the scripts are so important, because that way it's just like practice. When you go and finally talk to somebody, you may not say it perfectly, but you're going to know the words to say and be able to handle those objections. You're going to be able to handle any situation because you've taken the time to practice. And if you listen to a lot of the videos through Keller Williams, a lot of the videos online, and most successful agents, they're going to know their scripts, and they practice them, and they're really good at what they do. They become professionals. So I'm going to give you the objection, and I'll have you read that. Donna, what if prices drop?
Jackie, you are most concerned about the price of the home or the monthly payment on the mortgage? Of course, the monthly payment, I would have to agree with you. Let me ask another question. Do interest rates generally go up faster than home prices come down? What do you think? Yes, no doubt about it. In fact, interest rates could rise 1% tomorrow, right? The home prices would have to come down 10% to make up the 1% rise in interest rates. So if you're looking for a $200,000 home, do you think the interest rates might go up 1% before home prices come down $20,000 in your price range? I would definitely agree with you there. So let's do the right thing. Make an offer today before interest rates go up.
Awesome. This is a very powerful script, because a lot of people want to come in as low as possible. I mean, that's our job as a buyer's agent, is get the lowest price possible for them, and the sellers want the highest price. If the interest rates go up, which we are in the time where those could happen, your buyers will lose their buying power. I had a buyer at the time when Trump got elected, and the rates went up 0.5%. And we had been looking for a couple of weeks before, and as soon as he got elected, the rates went up 0.5%, and they lost probably $10,000, $15,000 worth of buying power. So we had to start looking less. Instead of at $400,000, we had to start at $385,000 and less. So they kind of got priced out of where they really wanted to be. So, and it can happen. I mean, they're predicting, you never can predict anything, but they're predicting a couple of interest rates. And that's something, if you want to talk to your people in your sphere, you have somebody that might be interested, talk to the lender. They're going to talk to the lenders here, or any of your preferred lenders. We have some amazing lenders here, and they can give you the up-to-date, because they're watching it all the time. They can give you the up-to-date. Hey, listen, they're predicting that the rates might go up, or what is the rate for the day for a VA or FHA. So, all right, who would like to read? Would you like to read? Okay, anybody else like to read? Okay. Tim's going to do it. All right, well, we need to sleep on it.
You're right. This is a huge decision. However, I want to give you a fair warning with a little pressure as possible. If you're willing to write an offer on this home, other buyers may also be ready to write as well. Being first to write will make the difference in negotiating the best possible price for you. Is there something specifically holding you back? How can I assist you with your decision? If they say wait for a little bit more, that sounds great. I will call the listing agent first thing in the morning to see if the home is still available, and then I'll call you. Do you have any questions on the property I can answer for you right now? Do you have any other purchasing concerns I can assist you with?
Awesome. Regroup and rethink. We've already touched base on this a couple of times, but if you've shown more than the average number of homes and your buyers have not made an offer, it's time to go back to the drawing board. I've talked about my 76 homes. I should have, at 20, I wish I would have talked to other people because I was just kind of winging it. I should have said, all right, well, let's sit down, and I felt very intimidated by the buyer, the husband, and I didn't feel that I could, and so I kept going on, showing the wife and then the husband poo-pooing every decision that she made. So take that time to say, hey, listen, email them both, call them, get them both on the phone at nighttime. And listen, I think that, we've already seen 20 homes, and I think that maybe we're not on the same page. Do you mind if I stop by for 20 minutes and let's go through? So that's something that you can talk about. Definitely very important. I'm almost done. So if I know we can take a break, but I'm almost done. If you give me about 10 more minutes, we'll be done here. You guys okay with going early? Okay. Or I can let you take a break now and we can finish up. So it's up to you. Do you guys need a break?
We're almost done. Finish out, right?
Okay. All right. Apologize about that. All right, if nothing comes up in your conversation when you're sitting down with them, it's best to get to the bottom line quickly and move on if you're not going to get the results you're after. Getting the bottom line with your buyers. Tim, what are you looking for that doesn't exist? So we have to make a decision. Or, excuse me, Tim, what you're looking for doesn't exist. So we're going to have to make a decision. You can either step out at this point. You can adjust your expectations, and it's okay to say that. Or you can step away from the home buying process for a year or a couple of months and see what happens. Which is the best course of action for you? There are a lot of people that move into this area from military out of the area, and the sticker shock in this area is huge. I call it the self-actualization process, where people, what they think that their buying power is going to be is, you're from Louisiana, a $250,000 home there is a mansion. Same in Texas and other parts, especially for a lot of your military families. I moved here as a military family. We had a 4-bedroom, fenced-in yard, trees in the backyard on a dead-end street, and we sold that for $250,000. We were thinking we were all that, and $250,000 here. It doesn't buy you hardly anything unless you're willing to drive, 40 miles to where you're working. And so I think, especially a lot of my tenants, a lot of my buyers, they all go through that kind of, especially from out of the area, they go through that self-actualization process where they're going to realize what they need to adjust their expectations. And I don't tell them up front. I don't tell them, you can't afford this neighborhood or you can't do this. I just set them up on the search, and they kind of have to come to that decision on their own. That's part of the patience. Now, some people might be more direct, but that's how I approach it. Keep them on a campaign if they give you a reason, if they've decided to step back. Hey, listen, we're going to think about this. We're going to get back to you in a couple of months. We just realized we're not ready to buy. Just keep in contact. I'll email once a week or once every other week saying, hey, just checking in with you. Oh, we're doing well. We're going up to see Bob, my parents up here. We'll be back in town next week. Just keep in touch with them. Communication is so important with your tenants, with your buyers, and your sellers. All right, we are almost done here. The last thing I want to talk about is, let's see. I think we're going to skip that last part because we've already gone through, unless you guys would like to do a mock showing inside here and have one of you talk about certain things in here. You want to go ahead and do that in this room? You never know. Okay, you guys want to do this? Okay, well, we're going to close with making sure customer service. Customer service throughout this whole process is very important. It's your bread and butter. The best agents are going to have the best systems and the best customer service, or the best systems, which include customer service. While you're out showing, you need to be proactive when it comes to communicating as you both try to find the home on the internet. Establish how they like to keep in touch. What might be right for everybody. Is it email, phone calls, text message? I work with a lot of people that are in the Pentagon and they can't have text. So I use Google Hangouts or email, or both. You'll also be spending a lot of times with your buyers, so bring resources to cover any eventuality or make the experience comfortable as possible. You talk about having a kit. David Donaldson is amazing. When he actually works technology here, but when he was actually showing, I just had an experience with a listing last week, and the kids were climbing up the mom, by the time we were done, and we didn't get the listing paperwork signed. And he said, I've not been opposed to bringing a pizza if I know there's kids and I'm going to be there at 5 o'clock. I'll bring a pizza, pepperoni pizza. I'll pick it up locally and bring it, and that way they're eating while I'm talking about what I need to talk about. I have a kit in my car. You talk about toilet paper. Sometimes you're at vacant listings and someone's got to go. So just having that kit, you can talk to David Donaldson or myself or what we put in there. Light bulbs. David Donaldson has toothpaste where when they go through the walkthrough right before closing, he'll put little, there's holes in the wall. And while you can't do anything about it, it kind of, they're not focused on that when they first walk in the house after they purchase it. To fill the holes. That's what he does. I don't necessarily do that. He was telling me that yesterday. I thought, oh, I didn't think about it. Because when you go to do the walkthrough and they've all taken their pictures off, I can't go back and say, listen, you need to fill these holes. Unless that was something that we just determined right at the very beginning. Because it's a temporary filler until the buyer gets in there and does their own thing. But it's just a visual thing. Most of the time if the wall's white, there you go, if the wall's white. Yeah, right, if your toothpaste is white, there you go. Okay, well, I'm kind of at the end here. Does anybody have any questions about what I went over? Anything else that you want to talk about? Any questions you had about showing buyers? Again, I'd love to sit down. If you guys want to sit down with me and do a buyer consult, I'd be happy to show you how I do it. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Jackie. It's very, very much. We really, really appreciate it. And definitely take her up on that offer. She is a huge, huge giver and does a great presentation. Anytime you have a question, you always see her bouncing around. Of course, also in PC, productivity. She's in productivity also, which again shows it's not just for brand new agents, it's for people at all different stages looking to do different things. So she's a huge help for that program and also for the whole market center. And she's an ALC, so she's part of that group as well, getting the culture going too. All right, so again, I know, cram session, a lot of things going on. It's hard to do all the stuff. Try to do what you can. Try to make some phone calls. Try to write some notes. If you go see a home, I know some of y'all can't yet, unfortunately. Just use Zillow and just kind of start looking at houses and stuff. But try to see if you can. Tomorrow we're doing 2 sessions. So today we're doing session 8. So tomorrow we're doing 9 and 10. It's making and receiving offers and negotiating a deal. Drew Swirsky is going to be doing that session. He is amazing. He is definitely a great negotiator. And so I'm sure that I'm going to miss it, unfortunately, because I'm going to be down in Richmond. We have a regional meeting. But actually, I was looking forward to his class. To get live, he just tells it like it is, and you get the straight stuff from him. He doesn't fluff anything. So be prepared for that kind of presentation. He's going to share it and ask any question you want with him too. He'll tell you the truth and where it is. He won't fluff it at all. So other than that, have a great day, which I'll learn today. So make advantage of it. Go make some calls, write some notes in your free time. And if you can do anything further, let us know. Last day in the class. See y'all. I will see y'all tomorrow. I'll see y'all on Friday. And then we'll go from there. And remember, so Monday we are having class and Wednesday. So we added Monday and Wednesday to make up the classes we missed last week. So we will have class Monday, even though it's Martin Luther King vacation holiday. I know it's going to be closed. If you want to do it from home, we'll be broadcasting. So you can watch it from home. But we will be having class on Monday. Dave Donaldson will be doing that class on Monday for that one. And then Sheila will close out 11 and 12 on Wednesday, wrapping the whole course up. All right? Wednesday is same time, 9 to 12. Both days, 9 to 12. All right. Thanks, everybody online, and we'll see y'all. Thanks so much. Make it a great day.